Wait until the thing lights up.
There you go, updates.
Yeah.
Nintendo game playing, this is Rick. How can I help you?
Yeah, right. When you're talking about Punch-Out second.
As a gameplay counselor, in the way that it was set up is Nintendo's front desk and their customer service were getting all these calls as the games got more and more complicated. So they set up essentially just a version or a section of their customer service that you would had a direct line. So that was their one thing is back in the 800 name days, they didn't want to pay for the call, but if customers wanted to call in to a regular toll number, just a regular 206 or 425 number, they would ask for help on different games. And in the beginning, when I first started, I was in the first training class. They had some game counselors before me, but they had not set up a formal training class. And picture a bunch of 8-foot or 6-foot tables laid out with little Sony 13-inch TVs and the original Nintendo, and you sat around and played Super Mario 1s, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Legend of Zelda.
Okay, let's start with Simon's Quest.
Okay, now where exactly are you in the game?
They really wanted to give a chance to get the excitement there for the kids. And so we were actually taught not just, hey, here's the answer, like if you nowadays just go on and get a walkthrough on YouTube or online. We wanted to kind of tease them a little bit, and not in a bad way, but just to help them discover it themselves. So there would be questions set up like how to get through the Lost Woods and Zelda. And so we would tell them where the clue was or how it was. Now, obviously, if they pushed or if it's some parent playing at 2 in the morning when their kid's asleep, we would help them out. But what really helped with that is, remember the original games, Super Mario and some of the other ones, didn't have any way to save the game. Mike Tyson Punch-Out and some of the other ones originally had a password, but Zelda, when it came out, had a battery in it. Dragon Warrior before that or actually it came out after that, had a battery. So you were able to, much like we all do today, is save your progress. And so it wasn't just, all of a sudden from just sitting down and leaving your Nintendo on for a couple of days on pause, you could save your progress and then have multiple files on there. So your brother could play and your parents could play. Nobody had ever heard of that before. So it was all in RAM, not in ROM, essentially.
Okay, level 7, let me get my foot.
Hi, this is Karen, Nintendo gameplay counselor.
Yeah, right.
I know at one point the call center had, I just saw this number the other day, something like 600 people working that were employed at one time, and that was in February of 90 or 91. 99% of the information never came from the people who made the games. It came from literally us sitting down and graphing stuff out and going through. Eventually, sometimes we'd see the best maps we ever saw were the ones that were Nintendo Power. And if you look at those closely, you can see that those were flat out screenshots. You can see the overlay, and somebody did that by hand. But as far as that kid going through or the game counselor and throwing the binders around and getting all crazy and putting his hat on different ways and all that kind of stuff, I think we all had days like that, but it was a little bit more controlled than that and a little bit more calm. The other thing they didn't show is I wouldn't have been sitting around reading Nintendo Power. I'd have been playing my own Nintendo that was hooked up to my own 13-inch Sony that was sitting there. I'd say 95% of the time I was playing games while I was talking to someone else. Because when else are you going to do it?
Now. Okay, watch out for those flying fireballs.
So I really think that in watching The Wizard 30 years later, and I had seen bits and pieces of it throughout the years, but I had never sat down and watched the whole thing again. I really think it holds up well. I think the games look good. The only thing that ever really bothered me about it a little bit is if you see the device that, or every arcade they went to had this Nintendo machine that you could play the Nintendo games on, the Pic 10 or something like that. It's funny is those weren't very widely distributed around here. And while they're in California, I think, and Nevada and stuff like that, you didn't see them around Seattle that much. And so it was always kind of an interesting thing because I'd be like, hey, here you are in your hometown. You'd think you'd see them a lot. But I really think that the game and the movie as a whole really holds up. And from what I understand, they even have video game tournaments based around the movie and things like that. And I think anything that engages people for that long amount of time, I really think that that's fun.